Welcome everyone to BigGunner81 Live, presented by Applied Arsenal Finishes and Gunworks, Trace Armory Group, EgglestonMunitions.com, which check out. Definitely they have some awesome projectiles and so forth, and also Spencer Precision. You need a barrel for your AR or a barrel for your Glock or a slide, they've got it. So check them out at SpencerPrecision.com. So this morning I'm on the way to work and I'm thinking to myself, I got this really good idea for an intro to the show. Didn't write it down. I can't remember what it was. So we're just going to roll with it, as we always do every week, just kind of off the cuff where we want to word it. We always kind of just have this as an open discussion for everybody to kind of discuss anything we want about firearms and so forth. And
Rick, if you do think of that intro, just butt right in, and then it won't make any sense, but it'll be great.
Just stop in the middle of the show and do the intro. we can do that. That's the fun part about this. It's creative, so we can do whatever we want with it. There isn't limitations like you'd have in radio where you got to stop for commercials and stuff like that. I do thank our sponsors and whatnot, but the companies that help us do different things here. And so real quick, we'll go through the room real quick to introduce everybody we have with us. Of course, we got Corey from Southern Style Beards. Welcome.
Hey guys.
Hey Wax.
We got Joe Gizzy, Craggy Island on Instagram.
Hey
Welcome,
buddy.
Joe.
What's going on, gentlemen?
Always glad to have you. We also got TJ, the Lead Slinging Ginger, on Instagram. Welcome.
Peace.
It's kind of funny. We got a lot of Instagram people on here, and now we got them on the show. So kind of interesting. And of course, we got again, welcome TJ.
Thank you.
And we got Wayne from Mighty Armory as well. Welcome, Wayne.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
Good, real good.
Hey, Wayne.
Good deal. So one of the things I was thinking about, I was just kind of browsing through my Facebook and came across this article from gunsandammo.com. And I guess they do this, I think they do this every year. It's basically listing the best states for gun owners, for 2017. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically go through the states. They talk about, have some of the different criterias and things that kind of the end of the list, which lists 50 states, but this is 51, kind of weird counting. But they list Washington, D.C., I guess, isn't, it's not technically a state. But it says last year reported that the good reason to fear injury to person or property requirement of DC's concealed carry permit application has been struck down by federal court. That's the good news. The bad news is that a stay has been issued to prevent the ruling from going into effect. Wait, there's more. During the development of this article, the U.S. Court of Appeals entered an injunction against DC's current and highly restrictive CCW law. It's too soon to know what the net effect will be for gun owners, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. Despite rumors to the contrary, there are still no gun stores or public ranges opened in the district. DC requires that all firearms be registered, and both black guns and magazines exceed 10 rounds are illegal. It's funny, black guns. So anyway, DC's adopted California, Maryland, and Massachusetts rosters of drop-safe guns. So if a handgun isn't eligible for purchase in those states, you can't have it in DC either. No NFA items allowed in the Metro Police Department. Currently, the Metro Police Department and firearms chambered in .50 caliber are also prohibited. Sorry, Joe, that 50 cal that you just shot is not legal in Washington, D.C. No surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these obviously will be very much like, type things. I'm going to see if I can actually share this article with you on the screen here. Then you can actually kind of see what I'm looking at. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I've got it up on my other screen here. So I used to work in the DC area, and let me tell you what, man, it is probably the closest thing to Nazi Germany I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And so, of course, number 50 is New York. Let's see, they talked about 2017 indictment of 4 individuals in connection with a bribery scheme involving NYPD's licensing division. Last example of corruption, a potential of may issue CCW laws. Looks like it requires a permit. They apparently have to bribe someone to obtain. So basically, it's like next to impossible to get a CCW. Magazines are restricted to 10 rounds. The 7-round restriction was struck down by the courts. I thought I remember that, hearing that, and part of it. All NFA items are banned, except an effort to exempt suppressors died in the state Senate last year. Although legitimate gun culture exists upstate New York, politics remain dominated by NYC and its suburbs, which our friend, Joe Nixon, he kind of can attest to some of that stuff. It's like there are still people, believe it or not, in these states that enjoy their firearms, but they just have a lot of restrictions that go along with it, of course. 49 is Massachusetts. I think they just had a new thing with a bumpfire stock ban they just put through or something. I don't know if it was like the acting governor, I guess, signed this bill or whatever. Let's see. This is last year expanded the state's 1998 assault weapon ban to include an extensive list of previously legal firearms. Gonna kind of skip through some of this stuff because I don't want to have this gone for a long time, because obviously we're only at 49, not 50. And let's see, suppressor ownership. They try to get that to lift the ban on suppressor ownership. There may issue state for permits for CCW. New Jersey.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah, Governor Chris.
I mean, most of these. It's the first 5 or 10.
It's his life. What's that?
I just say these first 5 or 10. Probably the ones that you would guess.
Yeah, the ones you kind of would guess were pretty bad. New Jersey, it says, Governor Chris Christie made it a little bit better. Let's see why they say that. Administration implemented. Oops. Recommendation that will better define the need requirement for their CCW may issue, of course. Of course, suppressors, SPRs, short-barreled shotguns are banned altogether, yada, yada.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Absolutely.
Was it CJ?
TJ.
You're right. Okay. What were you saying about DC? You said that you live there.
No, I used to work there. I actually commuted 2 hours to work up there, and it was pretty bad, to the point where local law enforcement and even some of the Secret Service agents, because as you're walking down the street, you're going to encounter those types of people. I don't know if it was for POTUS or VPOTUS or any of those upper echelon executive branch persons, but I was told to cross the street and not walk down a particular side of the sidewalk trying to go home and catch my train to go home, because they were pulling guard outside of a restaurant right there. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure. I mean, he had what looked like a submachine gun at the time, if I remember correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wasn't gonna buck the tide as I'm sitting there in my business suit with no weapon on me, because God forbid the peasants have arms there.
So basically, what you're saying is that district is almost martial law.
Close to it, yeah. Any of the you could even look at it as think of it like just like you would see if you tried to walk up and shake Bloomberg's hand in New York, right? When he was the mayor of New York at the time. This is probably the most anti-gun, politician that we've ever seen. That has actually enacted gun control laws in his municipality. And what's going on with him? Oh, he's surrounded by 10 to 15 off-duty NYPD officers.
Right.
Hey, back to blue. I support law enforcement all day long. But this guy's surrounded by off-duty law enforcement that are armed to the teeth with security. And if you try to get anywhere near him, they're practically, choke slamming you on the ground to protect him.
So what's he afraid of?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Think about it.
No,
Right?
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
it's absolutely.
No, I mean, you're totally right. I was in DC a couple months ago, and I was actually very surprised. Before that, I hadn't been there in 5, maybe 8 years. There are a lot of police officers, security guards everywhere, every intersection. I mean, obviously, I appreciate what they're doing, but it's I was very surprised by that. I think even for DC, but it goes to what you were saying. These politicians, they're not anti-gun because they know guns can protect themselves when they hire security guards. They're
Exactly.
anti-Second Amendment. They're anti-everyone else having guns.
Exactly.
Right.
So to get back to this list, of course, Hawaii's number 47. It's a May issue state for concealed carry. They do have a strong hunting culture in there as well. And this is 10 round limit for mags. NFA, items are all, of course, accessories are all banned. California, we'll just skip through that because we know California's got the most, I always want to say the most. I guess there's some states they consider less friendly than California, believe it or not. But, yeah, they've got their issues. Number 45, Connecticut. 2017, let's see, they didn't do any more damage to the gun rights in 2017. It is a May issue state with slightly more reasonable May issue state, I guess. Yada, yada. I know that they've had some interesting things like, assault weapons ban. And looks like, suppressors are legal, actually, I guess, in Connecticut. But the state's assault weapon ban is strict and the magazine capacity is limited. Doesn't say how many. Previously owned mags that are holding more than 10 rounds had to be registered are now unattainable. From what I understand, I talked to someone within about sometime earlier this year regarding the laws there, like a local for Connecticut. And I guess on ARs and stuff like that, you could still purchase and transfer anything that was like before 2004, 1994, I think it is. Whenever the first ban went into place, I guess they have where you could still sell and buy and sell those, but their AR-15, where you would, most everyone else could buy a new one off the shelf. They're stuck buying these that are used, and they're costing $2,000, $2,500 for an AR because you can't. They're not, you can't get any new ones anymore in that state because of the whole restrictions that are in place. Number 44 is Maryland.
Well, Rick, let me add something
Yes.
to that about Connecticut because I'm next door to that state.
Okay.
You actually have to be licensed to buy ammunition, gunpowder.
Didn't know
primers.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to have a license to buy any reloading equipment or
Well, technically,
supplies.
we'll get to the
Not
list too.
equipment, but supplies, bullets, powder, primers, whatever.
Like in Illinois, we had to have a FOID card, so it might not be any real difference there. I mean, basically, you have to get a license to buy ammunition in Illinois, not reloading components, but we'll get to that one down the list. Number 44 is Maryland. It says, despite Baltimore's epidemic of violence, obtaining a permit to protect oneself in Maryland is all but impossible. It's eligible.
Well, Beretta left Maryland, right?
I might have heard that.
They were manufacturing there. They left there because of the laws.
Yeah, they came down to my state, Tennessee.
Yeah, they did.
Tennessee, yeah.
There you go. Yep.
In fact, I think what they did is they offered all their employees monies to sell and move down with them so they wouldn't have to rehire skilled labor. Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear that part of it. No, and I might have heard about the whole move thing, but there was a lot of moves in the past year, so that for different companies moving different, more gun friendlier areas.
Right.
It says for Maryland, it also says that the purchase of a handgun requires a permit and registration is required. So I guess you have to register your pistol or whatever. It says unlike neighboring Virginia, black rifles are restricted, and suppressors are legal for both possession and hunting in accordance with federal law. So I guess you have suppressors, but everything else is pretty much a pain. And Rhode Island, isn't that where you're at too, Wayne?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, this is what it says. We'll read this one since you're from there. It says a domestic violence bill that would deprive gun owners of due process is poised to become law in Rhode Island as the state's legislative session nears its end. Fewer than 0.5% of Rhode Island residents have permits to carry, which are available through both state and local authorities. 98% of applications submitted are approved according to the latest data. There are no limits on magazine capacity in the Ocean State, but there is no legal means of obtaining NFA items. Waiting periods are required on all firearms purchases, and places to shoot are few and far between. Citizens in Rhode Island have a duty to retreat when attacked outside of their homes, which costs the state points in the Castle Doctrine category. Of course, again, this is off of gunsandammo.com. They're, best states for gun owners in 2017. So you have any comments on that?
Rhode Island's a liberal state, but it's not that bad regarding gun ownership here. Not at all. I've had my permit for, I don't know, 28 years.
Oh, wow.
It's not that hard to get through the AG's office, but if you try to get it through a local or city police department from the chief, you will run into problems because he doesn't want the liability.
I got
So
you.
it's a lot easier just go down to the AG's office to get one.
Yeah, it's like I heard in some states with machine guns and things like that people, if getting a signature from your local, county sheriff or whatever is kind of a pain. So number 42 is, sorry, go ahead. You want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, automatics are not allowed here.
Yeah.
Not legally, no.
So number 42 is Delaware. Let's see. Hunting opportunities don't play heavily into these rankings, if at all, but Delaware ended its outright ban on Sunday hunting this year with a handful of Sundays per season. Carry permits are issued to residents for particularized need. So that kind of sucks. Black guns and magazines are unrestricted by state law, so that's why they kind of helped them. Both full auto and specials are illegal for civilian ownership, but SBRs and any other weapons are permitted. Yada yada. Number 41, Minnesota. I've got a lot of relatives actually up in Minnesota. It has permitless carry bills were filed in both houses of the Minnesota legislature this year, but neither bill advanced. As we commented in last year's rankings, Minnesota is probably the spot in this list where gun owners can live without unreasonable interference from the state. From this point forward, for our rankings, states shall issue CCW laws and restrictions on magazine capacity. Oh, and no restrictions on magazine capacity. Minnesota's CCW law allows both concealed and open carry, and also serves as a permit to purchase handguns and certain semi-auto rifles. Suppressors are allowed, as are SBRs. Machine guns and short-barreled shotguns must be registered as curio and relic, which means that the pool of available firearms is limited. Minnesota has firearms preemption law and strong hunting tradition. Very true. Illinois is right after that.
Why is Minnesota that high then? It seems like it's fairly free-ish, right?
Well, I mean,
it just seems,
you can technically still own machine guns, but they have to be like, it sounds like, so probably a certain age marked as a curio relic. I don't know what what would fall into that category off the top of my head, but
well, I mean, with suppressors, Illinois obviously doesn't allow them.
Oh, sure.
I'm just surprised that
it's probably like, they're going through the whole point system. They're probably like so close that one or the other probably could be in front of each other, because Illinois is the next one in line here, number 41. It says, and we know,
applaud Minnesota is what I'm saying. It should be lower on the list, at least a little bit.
It seems that their justification here, reading between the lines, is that this is on the cusp purely because it is not, I guess, classified a shall issue state.
There you go. So let's see what Illinois has to say, because of course, I'm just moved down from Illinois recently, and Joe's in Illinois. Number 40, it says Illinois gets a bad rap among gun owners thanks to its largest city, of course, Chicago, right? But the rest of the state's gun laws aren't as restrictive. As many would assume, guns and ammo offices are located in Peoria, in the state's center. Didn't know that. Good to know. Illinois became the last state in the nation to implement a concealed carry statute in 2013, subject to a court order. There is no reciprocity, but non-resident permits are available. Yeah, I'm told that I can't keep mine, even though I had taken the class in Illinois and had it all there, and I can't transfer it to a new address or anything. So I guess they only allow maybe bordering states or what. I don't remember what the whole rule is anymore, but getting off topic slightly. But outside of Chicago and a few of its suburbs, black rifles and magazines are unrestricted. So there's a couple of places. I think you can even technically have one in Chicago now, I believe. Not 100% certain, though. The state's legislature nearly passed a bill this session that would have placed onerous? I can't even pronounce this freaking word. Requirements on gun dealers, so it's not at all peaches and cream. Yeah, that's right. They're trying to put like this whole bill, it's going to affect dealers. Illinois is pretty much a no-go when it comes to NFA items. Only 2 points are awarded in that category. A $10 state police issued FOID card is required to purchase or possess firearms in the state. That's true. To add to the NFA items list thing there. Now, if you are a licensing dealer, you can have, of course, with the proper licensing, there's different types of licenses through the ATF or BATFE, if you want to call it that, whatever. So those dealers can have suppressors and machine guns and things like that. We've been out there, we've shot them, at different events and things in Illinois. Also want to add to the fact that SBRs, from my understanding, that if you have a CNR license, a Curio and Relic license, there is a way to obtain an SBR or to build one even in Illinois legally. But you do have to have a CNR license to be able to do that.
So, Rick, we're going from worst to best, right?
Yep, worst to best. So it's getting
just for the hell of it, right? Just to break things up a little bit for maybe a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who would guess number one would be? I have my own opinion, but I want to hear yours.
Oh, I already know what it is on the list, but
all right. Well, don't tell.
Let's think about it.
Guys.
Let's think about it. We'll give it.
Did you guys look at it?
I didn't. No, I did.
Where would you think?
I don't know. I'll think about it for a couple minutes, and I'll give my guess.
I've already. I'm reading along with Rick on the other screen, so I already know who it is.
Well, we appreciate your honesty. How about you, CJ?
Oh, it's definitely going to be one of those in the Southwest, I think. I can't remember. Really? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I stopped at number 11 just because I wanted to find out where Tennessee was on the list. So I haven't spoiled the surprise, but yeah, it's definitely going to be in the Southwest. See,
I thought it'd be Wyoming.
My guess is going to be something like Wyoming, North Dakota. I don't know, or New Hampshire. I don't know too much about New Hampshire, but I know it's at least not as bad as some other East Coast states.
Vermont's pretty cool too.
Vermont's and Vermont is pretty lax.
Yeah, our friend Kent was a Green Mountain Training. He was on last week. He's from Vermont. He was telling me there's some cool things up there. So we'll continue on. I know it is, and I would give a hint, but maybe we'll get a little closer to it. So number 39 is Colorado. I know they had some issues with the mags and stuff, but this is second year in a row. Colorado legislature failed to advance a bill that would have repealed the 2013 statute restricting magazine capacity of 15 rounds. That arbitrary limit cost the state key points in the black rifle category because they had categories that they listed at the beginning of this. Again, you can check it out at gunsandammo.com. It's just the best states for gun ownership 2017. It says our CCW law earns the state 7 points, and it gets full points in the NFA column. Cool. Colorado has a strong competitive shooting tradition, which we got some friends down there. Our friends over at Viking Armament are down there. Fantastic range facilities. Some of the pioneer matches of both the 3-gun and long-range precision rifle sports got their start in the state's open landscape. 1911 builder extraordinaire Stan Chen makes his home in Durango.
I didn't know that Colorado had passed that magazine restriction because if I remember correctly, Magpul is based out of Colorado.
They moved. They're in Texas.
Yeah. So the way, if I remember it correctly, this magazine restriction came down, or at least the legislation was proposed, and Magpul said, "Hey, if you do this, we're pulling stakes and we're moving shop, and that means all these jobs that are employed at Magpul are going to be lost."
Yeah, I think they might have some. I'm not 100% certain of this. I want to say I think they have some manufacturing still there, but they moved for the most part to Texas, from what I understand.
Yeah, I hadn't kept my finger on that pulse. I mean, I like Magpul products, but
yeah, you're going to see them in the Texas rifle build. That one's getting close. I got to get a few more parts for it to finish it up. That's going to be an awesome rifle. Got their 60-round drum on that, and some of their other components are stock and things like that. But they make some great stuff, no doubt. Number 38 is Washington State, which you'll see some stuff from Aero Precision and I think it's Hardened Arms. I think I'm saying it right. trying to think off the top of my head that you'll see those parts in our 50 States AR-15 project. Washington says the bills that would have restricted magazine capacity and ban many semi-automatic rifles were defeated during this year's legislative session, and the state made some common sense revisions to the ill-fated ban on private transfers, which passed on the 2014 ballot. State gets full points in the black rifle column, but both machine guns, that and short-barreled shotguns are banned. Machine guns owned and registered before July 2004 are grandfathered in and remain legal. Washington has strong use of force laws in place. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I was stationed in Washington up at Fort Lewis, and I got that. That's actually where I bought my first gun, and I was kind of surprised with how liberal that state is. How see, at least keep in mind this was before, long before 2014. But I was kind of surprised at how gun friendly that state was, considering their politics.
Right.
There's also a huge competition shooting community in Washington.
Really? Didn't know that.
Oh yeah. USPSA and IPSC are big up there.
So we got number 37 is New Mexico. Their CCW law has been around for many years and could use some updating. Bloomberg's anti-gun group made an effort to pass a bill that would have effectively banned private transfers, but unfortunately that was defeated. The state gets full points in black rifle and NFA categories, but loses points to a weak use of force statute. If you're looking for a place to shoot, NRA's Whittington Center, if I'm saying that correctly, in Raton is a gun owner's paradise. I'm going to kind of skip through some of this. Oh, it's a filming location for Red Dawn, one of the most pro-gun movies of all time. I have not seen that, believe it or not. It's something everyone keeps talking about. I need to go watch that.
Stop the show. Just go watch it. We can't even be friends anymore.
Hey, I didn't say I wasn't ever going to watch it. It was the worst movie. I just said I haven't seen it yet. I've been hearing about it, and I don't know when did that come out.
I think late 80s, early 90s. I think it was late 80s.
So I was pretty young then. So
yeah, it's worth watching. Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's got guns in it. I'm good. So I'll watch it. I definitely want to. The number 36 is Iowa. Iowa leapt to 2 points forward in rankings this year, thanks to the omnibus pro-gun bill passed the legislature and signed by Governor Branstad. This bill improves the state's right to carry statute and enacts protection for gun owners during declared emergencies, legalizes SPRs, and removes a citizen's duty to retreat outside the home. It's a shell issue basis for CCW. Has gone from a social state to a very pro-gun state in just a few years. I heard that. I think they had not that long ago, suppressors weren't legal, and I know they got suppressors that are legal now and that stuff. So definitely that's cool. Number 35 is Nebraska. This one is the most difficult states in the country to pass legislation in, thanks to the idiosyncrasies of the state's unimacral I can't even pronounce these freaking words. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, legislature spent 3 years in that. There's a lobbyist. So whoever wrote this did that. Okay, great, wonderful. Right to carry. I'm kind of skimming through these kind of fast because obviously you cover a minute on each one of the 50 states and it goes to like the whole hour. But let's see, this bill will carry over to session, blah, blah, Omaha, and prevent the state from gaining full points in miscellaneous columns. Pre-option bill would address those rules. The CCW law, which is signed in, state 7 points. There are no restrictions on magazines or black rifles, and NFA items remain unrestricted. That's cool. You get ads that pop up on this from time to time, too. Number 34 is Oregon. A broad anti-gun bill before the Oregon legislature was defeated this year, but that raises serious due process concerns for gun owners made its way into the governor's desk. Oregon requires background checks for private transfers, but does not restrict black rifles, NFA items, or magazine capacity. So they're kind of hoping that the laws don't creep the other way, but still ranks pretty decently. Number 33 is Pennsylvania. Critical preemption bills have passed both houses of the Keystone States legislature. One of them must pass through the other chamber before it can be enacted. Passage of these bills will hopefully end the ongoing fight between Pennsylvania legislature and anti-gun municipalities. Another bill which would allow school employees to carry concealed firearms with the permission of local school board has passed out of the Senate. Pennsylvania issues CCW permits on a shall issue basis and does not restrict black rifles, magazines, or NFA items. That's cool. It's kind of interesting that they're not quite there yet, but they're working on getting that so that there's an option for teachers to be able to conceal carry in schools. That's interesting.
I just want to point out some of the hypocrisy, or at least what seems to be a little hypocritical in my opinion, where you'll have these states that'll issue bans on things like magazine capacity, but NFA items are totally cool.
Yeah, right. Well,
and they cite because there's no federal law restricting those items, or they'll cite federal law. And that's, keep in mind, I'm taking this at face value. If Guns and Ammo is actually citing the decisions, the decision points in the state Supreme Court cases that ultimately ruled these decisions to be made. It's funny to me, because there's no law federally that restricts magazine capacity. So
right, exactly.
So
number 32 is South Dakota. It says, at this point in our survey, this is where we really start splitting hairs to differentiate states. They passed a bill this year that would have legalized permitless carry, but the bill was vetoed by the governor. Open carry without a permit is already legal in the state, and existing CCW statute earns its 8 points. The state does not restrict ownership of any firearms, getting it full points in black rifle and NFA categories. The state is very pro-gun culture. Yada yada. That's awesome. Virginia legislative session is one of the earliest and briefest in the nation. This year, the Commonwealth's General Assembly put a package of bills on the governor's desk that would have allowed citizens to have been issued protective orders to carry handguns without a permit for 45 days. The idea is to give these potential victims the opportunity to defend themselves until a permit could be issued. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed these bills. That's sad. That would have been a really great idea, honestly.
Well, it's still an open carry state.
Yep, the next thing I was just going to say, open carry is legal throughout Virginia, thanks to a strong firearm preemption statute. The state has issued CCW permits on a shall issue basis for many years. Maximum points for strong castle doctrine. The NRA is, of course, headquartered in Fairfax. And the National Firearms Museum is a must-see for any gun enthusiast. That is one place I'd love to visit. I was even thinking about maybe even the 50 States Project one day could end up in something like that at one of the museums. Number 30 is Maine. Continuing tradition as a pro-gun governor, Paul LePage signed a bill in June that would prohibit state and local authorities from maintaining registries of gun owners. Maine allows for a permitless carry and issues permits to those who desire them, gaining it full points in the CCW column. The state also gets 10 points in the NFA and black rifle category since it restricts neither. Question 3, a Bloomberg-funded ballot initiative that would have mandated background checks was rejected by Maine's voters in 2016. Very cool. I think that's interesting, the part about permitless carry and issues permits to those who desire them. So, I guess if you want to have a permit to have one, you can get one, but you don't have to have it. That's kind of cool, I guess, in a sense.
I think that's probably to get ahead of gun owners or residents traveling out of state.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So they can have some sort of reciprocity agreement.
Gotcha. Because if you go out of state and you don't have a permit for your home state, it's how do you have reciprocity in that state you're going to?
Yeah, exactly. And you can't have a reciprocity agreement without having some sort of document.
Home base, yeah.
Or, we issue licenses and here's what it requires. Here's the requirements for it.
So number 29 is Ohio.
Very true. Yeah. We
actually just finished up the Ohio rifle, and I'm working on doing the video for that year. So last year we reported that Ohio legislature was considering a bill that would allow active duty members of the U.S. military to carry firearms in the Buckeye State without a permit. They did sign that bill into law in December. The bill also protects rights of gun owners to store firearms in their locked vehicles while they're on their employer's property. A bill before the legislature this year would require that permit holders be removed from locations where carry is prohibited rather than being charged with a crime. Ohio gets 7 out of 10 points for its use of force laws and gets full points for NFA and black gun categories. Number 28, Louisiana. Like many states, the gun politics of Louisiana differ greatly in the rural areas than they do in the cities, especially in the crime-ridden New Orleans. Last fall, New Orleans enacted an ordinance that will fine residents who fail to report a lost or stolen gun within 48 hours. And the St. Charles Parish considered a plan to ban carry in local parks. Louisiana has a strong castle doctrine law on the books and does not place restrictions on black rifles, magazines, or NFA items. That kind of sucks having to report lost or stolen guns in 48 hours. But I mean, it also makes sense. You want to report that. It's something that should be done. But having it to be mandatory is kind of strange too, because there's all different types of circumstances that we have to look at. You can analyze case by case basis. You think, oh, lost, stolen, simple, cut and dry case. What if somehow you misplaced a gun? It can happen. It shouldn't, but it can happen. All types of things.
Well, okay, so if you guys haven't put it together by now, I'm all about small government, but I'm big on personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And while I would disagree if, obviously I'm going to disagree with any law that puts the state in my living room or in my gun cabinets, trying to track every single thing that I own. I got to kind of agree with laws like that where it holds the individual gun owner responsible for the tool that they carry. Because let's face it, a gun can take a life. That was what they were originally designed, right?
And I don't disagree with that thought at all. I guess my concern is how could it be that law be misused?
It could be ignored.
Yeah, but is that really being misused by the state?
No, I'm talking about the person, the individual. If he misplaces it or loses it or it gets stolen, he's afraid to report it. He waits a week, he reports it, and the night before somebody gets shot with it. Now he's really screwed.
Yeah,
so you got to be real careful.
That's what I'm saying. How could it hurt someone?
Put yourself in that situation. You better be real careful about not reporting it. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Personal responsibility is key.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Let me see here. So then after Louisiana, we got number 27 at Michigan. Says we had a bill that would add Michigan to the list of permitless carry states has been passed out of the House, but faces a tough road at the state Senate. If this bill were to pass, the state would go from 7 points to 10 in the CCW carry. Open carry is legal in the state, and Michigan has strong use of force statutes. Despite intent by Democratic legislatures to enact a ban on assault weapons in the state in late 2016, it says 2106. NFA items, magazines, and black guns are all unrestricted by the state law. Michigan law requires the registration of handguns, a factor that costs it points in the miscellaneous column. Number 26, my new home state, North Carolina. A bill that would authorize permitless concealed carry failed to make it out of the state Senate session, keeping North Carolina at 8 points for CCW. North Carolina doesn't restrict black guns or magazine capacities, and NFA items are legal to own, so as long as one complies with the federal law. Cities such as Charlotte would probably love to have their own restrictions because Charlotte's kind of like the Chicago of North Carolina. But a statewide firearms preemption law keeps them more or less under control. North Carolina does require a permit to purchase a handgun, which includes a requirement applicants must be screened for mental health records that would prohibit ownership. Mecklenburg County, which is like Charlotte and some of the surrounding areas, implemented a computerized instant check system to comply with this requirement in a speedy manner last June. This report decreased their CCW wait times as a result. Mecklenburg County is seen to be, like, from what I heard when I moved down here, was one of the more difficult areas to deal with to get your concealed carry. But all in all, they still have to issue it as long as you pass the requirements and whatnot. The whole pistol purchase permit thing, just to kind of go over this, I know I talked about it before. If you don't have a concealed handgun permit here, then every pistol you want to purchase, you have to apply for a permit to purchase, and about $5. And there's a little waiting period. I think it's like a week or two or something, depending on what area, what county and whatnot that you're in. Kind of determines who might be quicker than other places to get it. You can buy several of them at one time, and then you can take them in and pick up your pistol. They also work as like your background check for, I guess, buying like rifles and things, but you don't have to have it to buy rifles and long guns and whatnot. But once you have a concealed handgun permit, they say CCW in this letter, in this article, but concealed handgun, they call it CCH here. Once you have it, then you can basically go and buy your pistol and take it home the same day. Pretty much, it is like your background check in a sense. So, moving along to number 25 is Nevada. And I'd say what their website on here has a ton of ads and stuff that pop up are really annoying. It says Nevada, Bloomberg funded effort to require background checks on firearm sales past November 2016. And it says, but the way it was written leaves it unenforceable. So so much for the $20 million they spent to pass it. Their governor signed legislation this year that allows military members and veterans who are under 21 to obtain CCW permits, which sure seems like a common sense. Sure seems like common sense. Nevada does not restrict black rifles or magazine capacity, and all NFA items and accessories are legal in the state. Las Vegas is likely the machine gun tourism capital of the world very soon. Very, very much the case. And they also talk about SHOT Show in here too, the Shooting, Hunting, and Outdoor Trade Show, which is like the mecca for any serious gun enthusiast. And hopefully we'll be going there this year as well. Number South Carolina. So it's kind of funny that they're not all that far from the border of South Carolina, but they have a little bit better freedoms, I guess, when it comes to gun ownership. They said, let's see, South Carolina governor signed a legislation this year that would prevent its citizens from being required to sell their guns to pay off creditors in bankruptcy cases. That's kind of cool.
Hold on, where is that a thing?
I know, right? I guess like if people go bankrupt, if you get forced to sell your guns, I mean,
assets.
It's an asset,
Yeah.
But I guess this way, people who are bankrupt and poor can still keep their guns on the street. I don't know. It's kind of a strange thing, though. It really is.
Yeah, I guess I never would have considered a firearm an estate asset that would, if you filed bankruptcy, your house, your cars, whatever got you. But yeah, I never would have.
Right. It says the best of our knowledge is the first.
And it's obviously infringing on your rights, but you would think that somebody would have maybe sold a couple of their guns to pay off debt or something.
Right.
Yeah, I would think that
personal responsibility, right?
And if I had debt and people knocking on my door and I had to pay down some bills, the first things I would look at willingly to sell would be maybe one or two of my guns. But people say, no, you have to sell your guns to pay off this debt. Like, there's a difference between the personal choice and being dictated to sell the firearm.
Right, that's the difference. Of course, it talks about their has pro reciprocity, yada yada. They get full points for NFA and black rifle categories. Wisconsin here, number 23. Wisconsin was one of the last states to enact the CCW statute. I think they had it. I want to say they had it right before Illinois, because Illinois was the last, I think. Let's see. Things have changed for gun owners in the Badger State since Scott Walker was elected, and now the legislature is considering a bill that will eliminate the CCW requirement. That's cool. It's too early to tell if the bill is fate. And of course, you get full points, black rifles, NFA items, etc., etc. Number 22 is Arkansas. It's kind of cool that these things kind of go into like the little bits and pieces of kind of current affairs in these states. You know, they just kind of touch on them. Let's see. It said they seem to move forward this year, but found itself leapfrogged by states who enacted permitless carry laws since last year. This March, Arkansas Governor, I don't know if you say Asa Hutchinson, I'm not sure I'm saying it right, signed legislation limiting many of the state's gun-free zones for enhanced permit holders, including college campuses, churches, and state offices. The state gets full points in black rifle, NFA, and miscellaneous categories thanks to its lack of restrictions in those areas. Kind of interesting choice of words, lack of restrictions. You know, like when you say lack of, it sounds like it's lacking is like a negative term.
Restrictions are the standard.
Yeah. Conditional duty to retreat statute applies outside the home and property. Indiana, number 21. Here you go, Corey.
Oh, yeah.
It says Indiana passed several pro-gun bills this year, including one that allows the state employees to carry firearms in the state capitol, and another that replaced an ill-conceived statute banning plastic-coated ammunition. Indiana has a strong CCW law with low fees, no training requirement, and full recognition of out-of-state permits. Open carry is also legal in the Hoosier State. Full points are awarded for NFA black rifle categories, as neither are restricted by state law. That's interesting. Banning plastic-coated ammunition. I mean, that's, you know, I remember going to Cabela's out there in Indiana and buying their Herter's brand aluminum-cased, total nylon jacketed, projectiles ammo. You know,
I think that's a parallelism to the Black Talon, quote unquote Teflon coated armor piercing pistol ammo of the 90s.
Gotcha.
That's probably what that's comparing it to.
I know that one of the bills here, I pulled it up on my other screen. It's House Bill 1258, and I actually know the representative that authored and drafted the bill. It states that firearms on state university campuses, it prohibits regional campuses of a state educational institute from imposing or enacting measure, policy, or rule prohibits and limiting the carrying, possession, or transportation of a firearm while in building or structure. So this bill allows me to successfully conceal carry my weapon in my vehicle on a college campus. So the college can't touch me because I have a concealed weapon in my car.
Yeah, Corey, is that specific for public college institutions or for private and public in the state?
It doesn't say on here.
Yeah, that's a clarifying point that I might ask your buddy.
Yeah, one other thing too, the plastic coat, they may be referring to Sabot or Sabot, however you want to pronounce it, simply because it hides the rifling from the bearing surface of the bullet.
Ah, yeah, that's an interesting point.
Okay.
So it hinders the forensic investigation aspect. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like paper.
I was going to say, my Eggleston munitions projectiles are polymer coated.
They leave rifling. Trust me.
Oh, I know they do. Sure.
I've done plenty of those out of a tree in my backyard.
Nice.
And yeah, sure. I'll tell you what though, they did maintain their form pretty well. But yeah, there was absolutely rifling in the coating.
Oh, sure. Number 20 is Vermont. If we had Kent on with us, could have talked about that a little bit. He was on, I think it was last week, from Green Mountain Training, I think it is, or Green Mountain Firearms Training. Says despite being one of the most liberal states in the nation, which I thought was really interesting that, Vermont, like you said, being very liberal, they have decent gun laws. It says remain gun-friendly state. My thing's moving around on the screen here. Thanks to its lack of gun laws, the state has had permitless carry for over a century. That thanks to the state Supreme Court case, but does not issue permits so that its residents can enjoy reciprocity with other states, which costs it a point. I wouldn't actually advocate for a permit system in the state. as I believe that would be a slippery slope to ending permitless carry. So the 9-point score shouldn't bother anyone. The state's gun culture has taken a hit thanks to transplants from nearby New York and Boston, which has put more than one well-established shooting range at risk due to noise complaints. Thankfully, a 2006 range protection statute was upheld by the courts to protect the North Country Sportsman's Club in Williston. I'm proud to have worked both closely with local pro-gun groups and on the passage of that 06 law. This is who the person who wrote the article, that is. And of course, number 19 is Idaho. It's a permitless carry state for residents, and thanks to a bill signed by the governor earlier this year, active military members can also carry concealed in the state without a permit. This change actually only applies inside the cities, as permitless carry is legal elsewhere in the state for residents and non-residents alike, so long as they are over 18 and not otherwise prohibited from possessing a firearm. They get full points for NFA, black rifle, and miscellaneous categories, but loses ground in the Castle Doctrine column thanks to its less than ideal use of force framework. Alabama is at number 18. Attempt to become a constitutional carry state failed when the legislature. I'm reading this all retarded. Sorry. State failed when the legislature, when the House failed to bring up Senate Bill 24 for a vote. CCW permits are issued by the county sheriffs in Sweet Home, Alabama, and fees vary considerably from county to county. The permit revenue is likely what has motivated the state sheriff association to oppose permitless carry, as well as efforts to create standard statewide fee for permits. Alabama does not restrict black rifles, magazines, or NFA items, and specials are illegal for hunting. Open carry is legal throughout the state, and civilian marksmanship programs range in Talladega is a fantastic facility. Number 17 is Wyoming.
Wow.
What's
Surprising.
that? Yep, number 17 is Wyoming, who has been largely pro-gun in the past, vetoed legislation which would allow concealed carry during meetings of government entities, which includes state legislature. But he did sign a bill that would allow local school districts to allow their employees to carry on campus. Wyoming gets near full points in the CCW column as a permitless carry state for residents and recognizes permits for all issuing states. Wyoming is a beautiful state with countless places to shoot and hunt, and the gun culture is as strong as it could be. The only weak point for Wyoming's gun owners is a use of force statute that does not provide full protection for citizens outside their homes. Mississippi gets full points for permitless carry law coupled with a shall issue permit system. The state gets full points in nearly every column, as it does not restrict magazines, NFA items, or its use of force statutes its use of force statutes are very good. Mississippi isn't necessarily home to a nationally meaningful competitive shooting culture, but the general attitude of the state is decidedly pro-gun. Mid-South and the northern part of the state is one of the premier shooting schools in the world, but regrettably is only open to law enforcement and military personnel. Number 15 is New Hampshire. All it took was the election of a new governor for the Granite State to join the growing ranks of constitutional carry states. Governor signed permitless carry legislation in March, bringing New Hampshire up to the maximum points for CCW. The state also receives 10 points for black gun and NFA and Castle Doctrine statutes. The state has a variety of shooting clubs, though many are members only. The only real strike against New Hampshire is that one has to run the gauntlet of Massachusetts, New York, or Connecticut to get anywhere. That sucks. Number 14 is Kentucky. It's failed to put a permitless carry bill on the governor's desk. Nonetheless, the state fared well and are best states for CCW review and gets 8 points for strong shall-issued law. The state gets full points in nearly every other category, no restrictions on individual firearms or accessories, and a strong Castle Doctrine law on the books. Number 13 is West Virginia. 3 pro-gun bills were signed into law this year in West Virginia: a range protection statute, a law that allows for concealed carry in state parks, and a provision that allows parents to maintain firearms in their vehicle when dropping or picking up their children at school. The Mountaineer State nearly runs the table in our survey with full points for CCW, NFA, and black rifles. The statute has strong, though not perfect, Castle Doctrine, use of force laws, and a preemption statute that blocks all municipal gun ordinances that were not in effect prior to 1999. I am still waiting on a legislature to repeal the prohibition on displaying a firearm in a store window. If they do so, I'll give them full points in miscellaneous category in 2018. Florida. Now, this is one I would think would be right at the top because Florida's pretty good. When Florida passed its landmark standard ground law a decade ago, the legal system responded by forcing citizens to provide or to prove that they acted in accordance with the statute in pretrial hearings. This year, Governor Rick Scott signed legislation shifting the burden of proof back onto the prosecution where it belongs. As a former prosecutor, I feel like I have some credibility here. This is again written by the person who wrote the article for Guns Ammo. A Miami Circuit Court judge has decided that the law is unconstitutional, but we'll see when the appellate courts have to say about that. And it says, Florida led the modern CCW movement with the signature of its landmark law in 1987 by then Governor Bob Martinez, and the state gets 8 points in that category. Places to shoot can be a bit challenging to find in the more populated urban areas, but new ranges in the state seem to be opening regularly. There are some incredible range facilities in the more rural areas of the state, including Core and tiny Baker, Florida, which is home to at least 2 national matches in the rapidly growing Precision Rifle Series.
Yeah, so I used to live in Florida. Actually, when I got out of the Army and worked in a gun store, it was in Florida.
Where have you not lived?
Man, I'm from all over the place. But yeah, so we lived in Florida, and so the stand your ground law was always an interesting thing there because everyone cites the Zimmerman case.
Yep.
If you actually pay attention to the court documents and the trial itself, he was not acquitted because of the stand your ground law. He was actually acquitted on just general self-defense, believe it or not. But I can attest it does have a lot of really good ranges there, but for anybody that might be interested in the pro-gun versus gun control debate, Florida is a perfect microcosm for the impact of concealed carry issue and the impact it has on declining violent crime rates. I wrote a paper in college on pro-gun versus gun control arguments and cited the statistics in Florida quite heavily in that research paper. And sure enough, there's a direct correlation with the increase in concealed carry license holders and the decrease in violent crime. And the reason I chose Florida is because it's such a melting pot of various cultures, and you've got everything from the Latino community to the gun-toting redneck community to Haitians, the African-American community, all these other different walks of life, people I'm not even naming.
It's demographically rich.
Yeah, very diverse state. So
exactly. I was going to add to this too about incredible range facilities. The one in Frostproof, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's down in Frostproof, Florida. We went down there to shoot the Three Gun Nation regional match. I think it's the Southeast regional match. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head anymore. I don't know why. But we're getting close to number 10. But we're at number 11 right now at Tennessee. Governor Haslam.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to mess with all these names. I'm horrible with names.
Yeah, that's all right.
My reading ain't so good. Especially when I'm tired and try to read on my screen. And I don't know if you guys see this, but for some reason, there must be like an ad or something playing in the background or something that it'll kind of start scrolling on its own a little bit. If you guys don't know that it's scrolling on its own, you probably think I'm doing it. But anyway, the governor signed in two pro-gun bills in the volunteer state this year, including one that would allow citizens to sue cities if they violate the state's firearm law preemption statute with the arbitrary gun-free zones. Tennessee would be in a tie for first place if it passed a permitless carry bill, as it gets maximum points in every other category. The state has great statutory framework for gun owners, as well as pro-gun culture and a growing firearms and training industry.
Yeah, Tennessee's actually flooded with firearms instructors. You can't sling a dead cat without hitting a firearms instructor.
Dead cat, nice.
But so they're not.
Sorry, can I just say that I love Tennessee? Just not even related to guns. I would move to Tennessee in a heartbeat. If I didn't, I have to live in Illinois. If I didn't have to, I would move to Tennessee. amazing. It's gorgeous. It's cheap. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just got to say that. And if Tennessee
No,
didn't exist, I'd move to Wisconsin.
But yeah, you get all 4 seasons. It really is a great place to live. I mean, just to putting aside the gun stuff, but so they will never pass permitless carry, at least not anytime soon. However, they do have a lifetime concealed handgun license.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's like it started out. I think this year was the first official full year for it, and it was like $500. And if I remember correctly, it's supposed to go down to $300 in 2018. So that's really not that bad considering.
Yeah, considering you're gonna have it for a lifetime.
Right,
So
exactly.
into the top 10 or the bottom of the top 10 right now. Missouri is number 10 on the list here. Last year, we reported that the Show Me State was poised to enact the permitless carry law. We can happily report that this statute was implemented in January 2017, which moves the state to 10 points in the column and moves it way up to 10 in our lineup. Bills that would have allowed for campus carry in the Show Me State did not advance from committee during this year's session. This state has done about face for gun owners since the 1990s. Missouri has been a leader in the Midwest and is a great example of what can be done when good people are elected to office and are held accountable. The state gets full points in nearly every other category. And number 9 is Georgia. After last year's veto, Governor Deal signed a compromise campus carry law in 2017, as well as a second omnibus gun bill that cleaned up various areas of Georgia's gun and knife laws. Georgia has one of the strongest CCW laws in the country when it comes to states that require permits and gets full points in the NFA, Black Rifle, and Castle Doctrine categories. I'm still waiting for Atlanta journalists to eat crow after all the dire predictions they made regarding Georgia's pro-gun efforts in recent years. This year's NRA annual meetings were held in Atlanta. I felt safer walking around downtown than I normally do. 80,000 gun owners will have that effect on a city. Very true. We actually went down to Georgia. Of course, I'd say Atlanta. I'm not a big fan of Atlanta. That's me personally, but it was a great NRA show.
You got to go to the right parts.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean,
like downtown Atlanta sucks, but
that's
everything around there. I love Atlanta. I think it's. But no, you're right. Right around.
I was only in downtown, so that's I can't. I guess I can't judge the whole area, and you're probably right. You know.
But no, that was fun, and yeah, I felt safe. It was.
That's right.
Good time.
I mean, I know you were there with us, and that was cool. We had a good time. NRA show is always good. I'm hoping to go to the one from 2018 as well, out in Texas, which is actually our ironically our number 8. It says Governor Abbott signed a pile of pro-gun bills in Texas this spring, including one that significantly lowers the cost of obtaining or renewing CHL, which allows for both concealed and open carry. The state also repealed the minimum caliber restriction that requires CHL applicants to demonstrate proficiency with at least a 32 caliber. 22 shooters rejoice. So if you want to shoot a 22, you can do so now for your CHL. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Texas has a strong Castle Doctrine law. The state gets full points for both NFA, Black Rifle categories, and boasts some of the best ranges in the nation. If you're a hunter, Texas's menu of native and exotic species is pretty hard to top, though most opportunities are on private land.
Have you been down there?
You have?
Have you?
I have not. I have not been to Texas yet. That's why I'm kind of looking forward.
If you want to hunt deer in Texas on private land, it's like $4,000 for a week to hunt that land.
Wow.
All the landowners, they put it to you to hunt. It's really hard to hunt down there unless you want to pay.
And God help you if you get a trophy animal, because there's a trophy animal. It's not a tax, but most of those places, like you're talking about, if you kill something that's worth mounting on the wall, or it'll make the state record books, they'll tack on another $2-3 grand on the end of that price tag.
Ouch.
Oh, it's crazy.
So and if we get a few minutes, I know we're kind of over our time a little bit, but we'll run through this list and finish.
Yeah, but you do that all the time, Rick.
I know I do. You're right.
You know?
I always end up thinking I'm going to have like a half-hour show
we-
because I don't have
Big
anything on my
bag of
mind. To,
wind, you.
You can't stop now.
can't stop now. We're at number 7.
Right, go
North
for it.
Dakota jumped to 10 points in our CCW category this year thanks to a permitless carry law sponsored by my friend Representative Todd Porter of Mandan. North Dakota gets high scores in nearly every category, only losing points for a less than perfect castle doctrine law. If you're a hunter, the state has some amazing opportunities available, and places to shoot are bound and expansive open lands. Utah, we knew Utah would be pretty high up on the list. I mean, as far as closer to number 1. Utah changed the law this year to allow 18 to 20-year-olds to obtain CCW permits. With only a lack of permitless carry, keeping it from sweeping every other category, Utah gets full points nearly across the board due to its protections of rights of gun owners. The state has some fantastic places to shoot, hosts several top-level matches, and is home to numerous firearm and accessory makers. There are no permits to purchase or any type of firearm purchase any type of firearm, and municipalities cannot regulate virtually any gun-related activity. The state has a strong use of force law, and NFA items are legal for ownership. Utah is an 6-way tie, and one could argue the order of those states for hours. So now, how does it go from number 8 to number 5? So I just noticed this. I'm going through this, and it goes.
Southwest, man.
Oh, now we know the winner.
I'm like, yeah, you saw it. Sorry.
Well, I'll see you guys later. I saw number 1. I'm done.
Yeah.
Done with the list. I bored everybody with it.
It's bad when the article you're reviewing cuts you off.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So we hit number 18, and then
Rick, I waited all that time just so you could tell me before we got there on time.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, bro.
We're almost there. But anyway, so yeah, it goes from number 8 to number 5. So I guess the 6-way tie thing. I don't know. There's they missed a couple of states in there or something. I don't know what the hell. Something screwed up with the numbering system on this thing. But anyway, they go to number 5 to Montana. I guess hard to top Montana's gun culture perspective, and state has developed a vibrant gun industry. Presence of companies is Kimber and Proof Research located in and around Kalispell. Kalispell? I don't know how to say that. Kind of skip through that if I can. I don't know why for some reason, like I said, I can't scroll this page sometimes. It's weird. Or it's just my computer's acting up. Number 4 is Oklahoma. Everything's okay in Oklahoma, right? No restrictions on NFA items or black rifles, yada yada. Shall issue. There we go. Permitless carry for gun owners from other states whose laws allow it. That's cool. So basically, a permitless carry for if you're out from out of state and your state allows you to have permitless carry, you can carry. Number 3 is Kansas. Got even more gun-friendly this year when the state enacted a law that allows for permitless carry in public buildings, which includes those in college campuses. Kansas doesn't restrict black rifles, magazines, NFA items, or anything else you want to own. It'd be hard to give the state full points in the miscellaneous column since the state's competitive and recreational shooting scene isn't as good as it could be, and there isn't much of a firearms industry presence. Kansas gun owners lost a friend in 2016 when the former Representative Candy Ruff, who worked tirelessly and successfully to pass. Sorry, this thing's scrolling on me. Pass the state's CCW bill, passed away due to an illness. That's too bad. Number 2 is Alaska. Of course, Alaska, in great wild open, area. Last year reported the campus carry bill is pending before Alaska legislature. Unfortunately, the bill never made it to the governor's desk. Alaska set the national modeling of allowing permitless carry, but also issuing CW permits. Obviously, CW permits, or if that's what they call it, I don't know. Concealed weapon permit, probably. To those who desire them for reciprocity purposes. Now that the CLEO chief law enforcement officer signature requirement has been deleted from the registration or from the requirements for NFA purchases and transfers. Alaska gets full points in the category. It's also really a towing cost for the towing cost. Yeah, I can't even. Damn it, I can't even talk. It really is a coin toss for the top spot, as Alaska is nearly tied in points for first. If you love the outdoors, Alaska wins, while if competitive shooting is your game, Arizona takes the prize. Since the survey is about gun owners, not hunting, we have to give the nod to Arizona. Yeah, if you also don't like the free, it's like basically comes down to, do you want to freeze your ass off and enjoy hunting, or do you want to be really, really hot and go do competitive shooting?
But it's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat out in the desert. Yeah, ask our friend Ryan Wiggins, who like almost died of heat exhaustion one day and had to drink a bunch of coconut water at a match. It says on here, it's hard to improve upon Arizona's gun laws as they seem to make an effort every year. In 2017, the governor Ducey, or Dust, I don't know that's how you say it, signed legislation into law preventing local governments from enacting background check requirements for gun ownership. Arizona maxes out in every category thanks to its permitless carry and permitted carry, very strong self-defense laws, hands-off NFA, and black gun policies, and an overall hassle-free landscape for gun owners. The Phoenix area likely has the most active competitive shooting cultures in the nation, and there are countless places to shoot in the deserts. If you are the kind that likes to take long shots, the hunting, I screwed it up. Countless places to shoot in the deserts if you like to take long shots. Okay. The hunting opportunities are some of the best in the country, though tags can be a challenge to draw. So if you're a sportsman as well as a gun owner, you are in luck. The gap between Arizona and the other states in the top 10 has certainly narrowed in the past few years, but we have no justification for taking the winning slot away from our reigning champion. So there you go. An hour and 15 minutes of the 50 states, even though there's like a couple that are missing in the line up there of the numbering system, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. So I don't know if you guys wanted to, before we wrap things up tonight, want to touch briefly on what happened in Texas. If anyone wants to talk about that, or we'll call it a night.
I just urge everyone. There's an interview that Steven Crowder did with the gentleman, the hero that intervened, the private citizen that intervened. So he's on YouTube. I urge everyone to check that out. It's a fairly long interview, but it's just really good.
Is that Louder with Crowder?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good deal. I mean, I've honestly, I haven't been able to watch the news a lot lately, but you hear bits and pieces of what happens in the world, just through social media and whatnot. But I don't know if any of you guys want to talk about that, TJ, if you want to go over what happened with it.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have any additional details. I mean, I'm not privy to any, privileged information or anything. But sitting at home, working from home behind a computer, I have a good finger on the pulse of what's going on in the news, and I mean, absolute tragedy. It's absolutely gut wrenching if you look at some of the details of the victims. Men, women, children. It's absolutely disgusting. And from what I understand, and I even heard or saw some arguments saying that, the massacre was over. What did this hero or this private citizen that intervened really stop? And that's not the case at all. It was proven that he was on his way he was really trying to hunt down some in-law family members. So I guess his wife's family, and they were not in the church that he targeted when he went on his killing spree. And he was when he got done with the church, he was on his way to go track those other people down. So,
wow.
Yeah. So it is a cold hard case of a law-abiding citizen, preventing more violence.
Of course, media will spin it the other way.
Right. Well, and the most striking thing that that I noticed during that interview is after he and this other gentleman that drove in a truck that chased him down, you know, at this point, I don't know, he was, you know, incapacitated or dead already, but he said that they were waiting for 5 to 7 minutes for the cops to arrive. This was after the chase was over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an eternity.
Yeah, national average for 911 response time is 21 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the police did a great job when they got there, but it's, I mean, he literally stopped this man. It's incredible, but it's a tragedy. It's just it's disgusting.
It's very, I don't know, when you wake up in the morning and see horrible news, especially on a Sunday, that someone went into a place of worship and just started killing helpless and hopeless people in the middle of them honoring their higher power. It is absolutely disgusting. You know, one of the things that people, there's just, you know, I'm a studying psychology major, and there is a array of different mental illnesses, and I think the mental illnesses that, to me, that need to be focused on are the ones that have schizophrenia and depression, anger problems, bipolar, and different things like that. I mean, everybody in this world, in my opinion, has mental issues. Everybody gets nervous. Everybody gets anxious. Everybody has those butterflies in your stomach when you are nervous about something. That's a mental tribute, and it's just hard. It's hard to figure out, and I think from what I understood about the situation in Texas about the shooter was that the FBI didn't put him into the database. From what I saw,
it was the Air Force.
Okay.
Air Force OSI, which is like the Criminal Investigation Division for the Army.
Okay.
So their OSI handles that, and they did not enter his arrest record and his jail time.
Yeah.
I mean, even if, let's just say he didn't even do jail time, the fact that he had a charge and a conviction for domestic violence immediately precludes him from owning a firearm.
Exactly.
It falls under the Lautenberg Act.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's a felony or misdemeanor case. The fact that it's a domestic violence conviction.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's absolutely gut-wrenching and disgusting and sick, and just, you wonder what you can do to help someone that has that kind of issue. But then again, it's also another thing to figure out on how to combat it against other individuals. So when people say, you know, what are you doing to, you know, strengthen the gun laws, like the reporter asked Trump when he was in South Korea, I think it was yesterday.
The dumbest question I've ever heard.
It was seriously the dumbest question anybody could have ever asked. First of all, he's not even in the country, and he wasn't even discussing that at the time. But look, there is nothing about gun control at all. This is about mental health and people in general. It's the people that kill people. It's not the weapons don't do it. That's a tool.
Absolutely.
It's just I don't know. I'm tore up about it.
You can't really legislate against crazy.
Well, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something to be said about that too. You know, just speaking to Corey's points, you know, there's always since 9/11, really, it's been, if you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
everyone knows that tagline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, say what to who? do we start a nationwide witch hunt because somebody who might be overly sensitive?
Hey, good point to bring that up about the overly sensitivity, because I was just reading an article about something that happened in Illinois today. I think it was today. I want to say it was like Schaumburg or something like that. They had a whole office building that basically was on lockdown because they thought there was men with guns roaming around, and it was just a couple of construction workers with their utility belts on that someone mistook for like a gun belt or something.
Yeah, I mean, you see the same thing. There's a university where they have an ROTC program, and the drill team was practicing, and these are completely inert, demilitarized parade rifles. And somebody called 911 because they saw people spinning rifles on the quad. Okay, so how do you take that and then separate the chaff from the wheat and say, no, this is legitimate. I just saw this guy. Take case in point for the guy in Texas who was brutalizing puppies as his neighbors witnessed, which is, and Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, fits the profile of a psychopath that has homicidal tendencies, doing harm and injury to small animals, starting fires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate report in my opinion. Where's the logistical backup or the reporting chain for that to take place and for an investigation to be launched in that case? Do I call the cops and say, hey, this guy was killing puppies in the back alley? When are they going to have the resources to even come and send somebody out to investigate that? Where's the red flag on his background check that says, hey, even if he hasn't been convicted of anything, maybe you need to hold on this guy, releasing him a firearm, subject to investigation. Where's the support for that?
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyhow, we're definitely over our time. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap everything up for tonight. Appreciate you all being with us tonight. And for those of you out there watching and listening, both live and in the future here, of course, go ahead and go across the board here. Corey, you got any last thoughts you want to throw out?
I'm just still offering up thoughts, prayers, and condolences to the victims and the families in Texas. It's just such a tragic incident, especially in the case as to which it happened. It seems like we've had this kind of tragic incident come up, twice here recently, which it has. That we're offering our thoughts and prayers out to the public on this, and it doesn't only hit you personally, but it hits your rights too. So thoughts and continued prayers with them.
Well said. Joe, you got anything you want to wrap up with tonight?
No, we covered a lot. No, I'm good.
Okay, no worries. Always glad to have you with us. And TJ, you got anything you want to throw out there? Last thoughts?
No, nothing we haven't already covered. Wayne, Joe, it's good to meet you guys.
Same
Yeah,
here.
it was great talking with all of you.
Yeah, always a pleasure getting together with you guys. I look forward to this every week.
Yes, definitely.
Furthering the conversation and educating people, and just spreading the pro gun love. So
Absolutely. So Wayne, you got anything you want to mention?
Yeah. Go Arizona.
You want to mention your website, mightyarmory.com?
No, you just did it for me. Thank you.
All right, no problem. So again, thanks for hanging out with us. And that going through the 50 states, I think there's some gap there in the numbering system. So it was kind of boring, but still kind of interesting at the same time. There's a lot of little tidbits and facts in that article on gunsandammo.com. Again, thoughts and prayers, as Corey said, go out to families, and friends and everybody out in Texas that are affected by this this tragedy that happened out there. There's not really any other way to say that. I mean, it's just a horrible thing. first and foremost. And it really sucks that, instead of focusing on that aspect of it, what had happened, we jump right away into the whole gun debate. It doesn't even get a sense for people to even get closure on the incident and even really let everything kind of settle, and we go right into that.
Yeah, politics is run amok these days, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everywhere. Everything is politicized.
Right. It's like the politics go before the people,
Yeah, they're hurting America. The politicians, the media, they're hurting America.
Yeah, the media isn't what it really was once. And I want to throw this thought out there too. Is
close.
I was watching something, I think it was yesterday, the day before, on this TV show, Adam Ruins Everything. I don't know if you guys saw that or not ever, but it's a show where this guy kind of debunks things and kind of shares like facts and thoughts on this stuff and whatnot. But they were talking about, in terms of media, the Orson Welles thing, the whole War of the Worlds, and they talked about the whole hysteria that was caused by this radio show back in the day. Mm-hmm. And then the newspaper articles came out and said, "Oh, all these people had this whole hysteria type thing going on afterwards." In reality, his whole debunked thing of that was that the newspapers were threatened by the radio, and so they looked at this as an opportunity to blow out of proportion what had actually happened. The show that he was on wasn't the most popular show at the time, and the reaction that was over-exaggerated really wasn't what happened at the time, apparently. This is what they're kind of claiming on this TV show that I'm watching, just the other day. Gauging that the media, has its own interests in a sense. Depending, like I said, this was a newspaper article that was kind of putting out there like, hey, look, the radio is dangerous because it can cause, that information to spread so quickly that people will panic. And radio is like, well, we get information out quicker than newspaper because it comes out the next day kind of thing. You got to be careful with what you watch on TV and kind of read between the lines and what you read on the internet. There's so much stuff that is just fake, misinterpreted, faked, written with a spin. Yep. I was reading an article online that someone wrote that was probably from Europe somewhere, talking about, our firearms laws in the U.S. and whatnot. And, if you read what they're writing, technically what their words are correct, I guess, the way to put it. But yet they put it in a different spin that makes it look like the context that it's being used in as a negative thing. Really hard to explain without analyzing the whole article and kind of going through it, which we don't have time to do today. But anyway, again, the more important thing is the people that were affected in what happened recently than any of this other stuff. So we just kind of go into it because we kind of get in that whole defensive mode of now people are going after our rights, and we have to do that because if we don't become defensive for it and proactive, then our rights get taken away. They just kind of get nibbled away. Now they take a slice of the cake until the whole cake's gone. That sort of thing. So anyway, I kind of beat that over the head enough. So anyway, again, everybody, thanks again for listening and watching. And I want to again thank Eggleston Munitions, Applied Arsenal Finishes and Gunworks, Trace Armory Group, and of course, Spinta Precision. Check out spintaprecision.com. And until next time, as always, have fun shooting.
Good night, Rick.